All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our candidate forum today for County Commission District 4 with incumbent Commissioner Brian Welch and candidate Dr. Issac Montilla. I'm Amber Tynan. I'm the Executive Director of United Partners for Human Services, and we thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us today for this conversation. We recognize the value and power of cross-sector collaboration, so it's my pleasure to introduce my co-host today, Kathleen Spihar, the Executive Director for COCA, the Council on Culture and Arts. And we'd also like to recognize Commissioner Brian Welch as their county board rep and for his service to their board. I'd like to also recognize our team on the call, LaShawn Gordon, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, and Justin Fitzpatrick, our Membership and Communications Manager. And before we dive into today's conversation, it will be recorded, but we'd like to go through a little bit of Zoom etiquette. We have disabled the chat, but don't fret. You'll have the chance to ask some questions at the end of today's forum. We will have some time for that, so please hold your questions for then. We want to take time during this forum to give you the chance to learn more about our candidates, their positions, specifically on issues that are affecting our nonprofit sector. And as you know, our organizations represent the nonprofit sector with unified voice, and we believe in engaging with our local leaders when addressing the growing issues of our community. Nonprofits are and have always been an essential to the community's financial health, and our community here in Tallahassee, Leon County is no different. So when addressing hard issues like poverty and focusing on job creation and attracting new businesses, all of those plans should include collaboration with our sector and the nonprofit community. I'm going to now pass it over to Kathleen Spihar to share a little bit of our ground rules for the day before we get started. And with that, Kathleen.
Thank you, Amber, and good afternoon, everyone. The forum ground rules are as follows. So the moderator will ask questions and give each candidate a chance to answer. We will be asking that each candidate respond in alphabetical order of last name. So we've got Montilla and then Welch, and then alternating thereafter. Then with each question, candidates will have up to 120 seconds to respond. If a rebuttal is necessary, each candidate will be given 30 seconds to respond before we move on to the next question. Then a bell will be rung when your time is up. However, feel free to finish your thought if you're in the middle of speaking. And after that, we will have a chance to ask our 10 questions. Then we will open it up to any participants to ask any questions, and the same response rules will apply.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathleen. With that, Dr. Montilla, you will be first. You're welcome before we start the time to share a little bit about yourself if you'd like. Same for you, Commissioner, when we get to you. But then we will officially start the clock. But your question is, given the challenges of budget constraints, how would you stretch or increase taxpayer dollars to address the unmet needs for our Tallahassee, Leon County neighbors?
Well, before I answer that, yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited really to do this. I know it's last minute, just trying to sort all the schedules out, but glad I'm here now, and again, grateful for this opportunity. So really briefly, married, have 4 kids. We moved here about 14 years ago, started our own business. That's the name. I don't know how you do this here. It's like backwards. That's the name of our my chiropractic clinic here in Tallahassee. And we've been really active in our community for 14 years. And so now I'm taking this opportunity to launch into this next platform. To answer your question, I believe that partnerships are very important. How do you collaborate continuously with other nonprofits? We are involved with a couple ourselves. And I was mentioning this before we launched on. One that we provide respite care for struggling parents. I think leveraging grants and really even the possibility of private partnerships proactively is important. And I think also really implementing as a small business owner, implementing cost-effective opportunities that yield high impacts within the programs in the community. I think using a lot of the research and putting those into action, I think is very important to allowing us to be able to stretch that. So.
Thank you. Commissioner, I am happy to repeat that question, but I wanted to give you the same opportunity to introduce yourselves. Hopefully everybody has had the chance to meet you before you answer and respond.
Yeah, well, thank you. I won't waste too much time on myself. Most of you guys know who I am. Been a school teacher at Childs now for 18 years. I've served on numerous nonprofit boards throughout that time, started a foundation at Childs High School to serve that very purpose. Yeah, as a policymaker, we recognize the vital importance of working with our nonprofit community to try and solve problems. As someone who has created a nonprofit and worked to try and fill the gaps of funding shortages across, issues that are important to us, all of the nonprofits have that mission and their specific bailiwick that they're focused on. As a policymaker, we have a responsibility to try and work with you, understand your issues. In many cases, policymakers serve on your boards, as I serve on the COCA board or the Challenger Learning Center or whatever. There's no secret way to find more money. I mean, as we see revenues go up in our governments, we have a responsibility to make sure that those revenues get applied through the CHSP process or through whatever mechanisms we can find to try and fulfill the missions of our various nonprofits. We have upped our cost share for the medical reimbursements recently as we have seen our budgets go up. So I think in the county's perspective, you have a relatively small budget compared to the city. Working to help you guys leverage federal dollars, acting as a conduit for financing from the federal government or from the state government where we can to help, ultimately give you as much money as we possibly can. I mean, we have to be reasonable and responsible with the way we budget and the way we work with all of our partners and stakeholders. But I think the key to that is recognizing and acknowledging that we do value our nonprofit community. You really do fill a lot of gaps in the funding mechanisms for solving problems in the community, specifically those chronic and acute problems like homelessness and poverty. So I think it's really about being open, being honest with our partners, letting them know where we have funding and where we don't have funding, listening to you. As you all know, when you call my office or you call any of us and you have a question, you have a concern, we try to address that to the best of our ability before we get into a meeting, and then certainly even if we have to address it during a meeting.
Thank you. Thank you both. Commissioner Welch, we're going to go on with the next question. What should the top 3 budgetary priorities of the county include from your perspective?
Oh man. Well, I mean, the county obviously doesn't offer as many services as the city in terms of direct provision. Obviously, we provide the EMS service, which we do really, really well at the county. That is a forward-facing public safety service that is vital to the health of our community. So that one's important. Working with Parks and Recreation to the extent that we can is a very important service. Providing expedited permitting and environmental and what do we call it over there, DSEM. Basically working to help grow the community and facilitate that in as efficient a way as possible. And then obviously with the funds that we have, trying to solve the big problems, which, again, complicated problems that require complicated solutions. So the county works, I think, in a very open and fair way and honest way with all of our partners to try and solve problems. So, I mean, I think our public safety provisions are probably number 1. Our growth and development responsibilities are probably number 2, and then trying to facilitate, homelessness and panhandling and all those things to try and solve those problems is probably number 3.
Thank you, Commissioner. Same question, Dr. Montilla. What should the top 3 budgetary priorities of the county include from your perspective?
Well, I think Commissioner Welch honed in on really important factors. But I think what I found as we're running in this campaign trail is that there is gaps. There's a lot of gaps, that need to be filled. It's how are we more actionary and proactive and seeing these things come to fruition more often than not. So when you look at, whether it be EMS or first responders, storm hardened facilities, when you look at homelessness continues to be a problem. I think looking at other, I said this before recently, it's like, how do we look at other places that are doing it much more effectively and learn, not continuously year after year, continuously do the same, definition of insanity, trying to do, is it doing the same thing over and over, hoping for different results? the problem continues to get worse. And so being boots on the ground, I'm really big on being present. And so I think those areas continue to be a problem. And I think that they need more attention and better ways to address them.
Thank you both. Dr. Montilla, this question will start with you. What role should local government play in ensuring supports are available as well as access to services for people experiencing mental health challenges in our community?
So mental health continues to grow. I believe that looking at funding and resource allocation, how well are we doing it? As a small business owner, and I see this in our clinics, and there's different patients that come from different walks of life, is how do we help a patient not only get the help they need, but how do we help them get better and stay better? So I think looking at how well we're allocating this funding and what resources are there that we can tap into, and continued partnerships and collaboration with nonprofits. I think that's very important. Again, and in education is very big on allowing the individual to feel empowered, right? And as well as the community to know how we can all come together to help our community move forward.
Commissioner?
Yeah, mental health is one of those very challenging issues that we face in the county. There's never going to be enough money to deal with that. We've got a broad spectrum of problems associated with that, not just in capacity, but in providers. FSU has started to focus in on creating residency programs that deal with mental health counseling. I'm sorry, I got an issue here going on with my phone and my computer. A lot of what we do is dictated by the state when it comes to mental health in terms of steering people to Appalachia. Again, the county doesn't have unlimited resources to deal with the issue. I think we can pass policy that is proactive. We can be careful that we don't criminalize homelessness. We can try and steer support to our homeless service providers. We can work with the sheriff to make sure that he's got the capability at the prison, at the jail, to deal with the homeless population that has mental health issues. I mean, 60% of the folks in our jail have mental health issues. They are our largest mental health provider. We got to try and find ways to keep people out of jail. We got to find ways to provide more capacity with providers. And I think that involves working with the state. I mean, they've got all the money. They facilitate that money through their programming down to local level providers in the region. The county has a role and responsibility. We take that very seriously, and we do everything we can in our power to try and provide solutions to, again, a lot of the problems that the nonprofit community has to deal with are very difficult and very kind of boutique problems, and they're going to require, partnerships and solutions, but particularly with our state and federal providers.
Thank you. Thank you both. Commissioner Welch, the next question is going to start with you. So human services and nonprofits in general are woefully underfunded at local, state, and federal level, while the demand for service continues to increase. So would you support an increase in funding in all categories for CHSP if elected in the 2026 funding cycle?
I can't answer that question. I mean, I would have to look at the benefits and the analysis of that. Obviously, we budget very carefully at Leon County government. It's not like we're just wasting money, guys, and you know that. So that's a difficult question. I would not be comfortable answering that question. I'd have to look at an analysis and see how much money we have available, where that money's coming from, who that money's going to impact. Obviously, we wish there was more money in CHSP. I mean, we're talking about, what, $1 million, I mean, a couple of $500,000 from the county or something like that. I mean, it's a very small pool of money. To the extent that we could increase that money, I think most of the board would probably support that. But again, the devil's in the details when it comes to commitments like that. And I wouldn't be willing to make that commitment right now, just hypothetically.
Thank you for that. Dr. Montilla, same question?
Yeah, I think that it needs to be studied. Again, it goes back to how I run my businesses is how well are we maximizing what we currently have, right? And as a wellness practitioner, I just use an example of a supplement. I tell my patients all the time that the most expensive supplement is the one that doesn't work, right? And so I think that it's easy to say, hey, we should apply for more or get more or try to get more, but how are we doing in a foundational level? So I would want to study it, see where we are. Are we maximizing the potential of what we are receiving? Are we truly tapped into what we can? and then go from there.
Thank you both. Dr. Montilla, this question will start with you. What would you do to strengthen the partnership between local government and our nonprofit sector?
Well, I would see how it's operating, gather that information. But I love community. I love I love presence. And so for me, I would want to see what relationships we do have and what are the opportunities that we do have. So for me, it's picking up a phone call, and I would want to partner to not just give answers, but to collaborate and come up with solutions. What are best ways, best practices to come up with solutions that can better the nonprofit? I've not started a nonprofit organization, but I've started businesses, and I'm big on relationships and being present and problem solving and creating solutions. So that, I think, is a great opportunity in anything, is always how do you, you make sure before anything else, you relationships, where are those relationships working, invest so that we can have a stronger relationship as we work together, and then just grow from that nation and beyond.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry, Amber.
Absolutely, no problem. What would you do to strengthen the partnership between local government and our nonprofit sector?
Oh, well, gosh, I mean, getting involved helps. When I get the opportunity to serve on COCA or the Challenger Learning Center Board or Downtown Improvement Authority, or visit Tallahassee, obviously when we're involved with what you're doing, and interested in what you're doing, that certainly helps. We want to come to your events, help support your causes, share your stuff on social media. I mean, ultimately, as a candidate for political office, Dr. Montilla and myself both, we have to raise a lot of money. You guys have to raise a lot of money. This is an effort in trying to raise funds, right? As many as we can from the community and in partnerships with local government, state, federal government. So participating in your fundraisers, being actively engaged in what you're doing. Kathleen does a great job as an executive, motivating her board, steering her board in the right direction, keeping us informed about opportunities to engage with state level legislators, to push issues that are important to our board. So I think that that's a two-way street. Obviously our nonprofits have an open gate to access us. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from all of the stakeholders. And then we take that information and we try to create solutions for you guys. So robust communication is key. And then having an open mind to every possible outcome. Like I said in the previous question, I can't commit to you based on that. I'd have to get more information. So I treat you guys the same way. If there's something that you don't like, I want to get more information. If there's something you do like, I want to get more information, and ultimately make as informed a decision as possible. So really, it's just about fostering communication and actively engaging with the policymakers that impact your ability to perform your mission.
Thank you both. This is a related question, I think, to some of the points we've been making. So let's start with you, Commissioner Welch, and that is, I think we'd all agree that arts and creativity are the soul of our nation, and Tallahassee, Leon County are no different. So how can Leon County ensure that human services, arts, culture, and heritage organizations are part of the innovative solutions in creating a healthier and more united community?
Oh, goodness. I mean, we work with you, Kathleen, on Family Day in Leon County, which was a big deal for me in my first term. I think anytime that you can work together to create some kind of buy-in across the spectrum of human services, across the spectrum of the nonprofit community, and use art as a tool to do that, I think that's something we will all encourage, right? Whether we're talking about creating a performing arts facility, or somehow trying to resurrect or revive or keep alive Railroad Square. I mean, these are all things that we share in, but again, it really involves communication, working together, trying to be creative. When we do Family Day, we have aspects of it that are art oriented. We have aspects of it that are human services oriented. We offer photographs for families for Christmas cards that they wouldn't normally have. We have opportunities to donate blood. We have opportunities to find access to resources. So I think it's just, being creative, not leaving any opportunity off the table, being open to being, trying something different, being new about it. So I think there's no one way to skin a cat when you're talking about trying to raise awareness. And art is obviously a great tool to utilize to bring people to the table, because everybody in their own way loves art in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Dr. Montilla, same question.
Thank you. Art is big in our house. We can't draw or paint, but I'm a musician, so art is in my blood. I think art brings, I tell my kids,
Think, Dr. Montilla, we've lost your audio.
oh,
And you're back now.
okay, am I back? Okay. I
You're
don't know
back.
what did you hear?
You started with art is big in your household. So if
Yes.
you want
Okay.
to
So
continue
art
from there.
is, yeah, it's part of our household. I'm a musician. I play percussion. I play drums. I started playing keyboard when I was 12 years old. I tell my kids that life is the beat. You can make noise or you can make music. And so I truly believe also in implementing creative ways to bring people together through art. One of the things that we've done before this year, I didn't do it this year because of campaigning, but we would go into schools and highlight teachers or classrooms, and I'd walk in with a drum beat and have these kids start cheering. And then what I did is I printed out affirmations and had these kids repeat after me, just getting excited about music, about coming together and just being empowered. So I think that there's collaborative ways to do so, being present, showing up. We actually have ways that we do that when we've been hosting events on the northeast side of Tallahassee and across Tallahassee in different ways. And so for me, it's really important. Art is very important. And again, to find creative ways to really come together within art. So I have different ideas as well that I want to implement, if I'm elected in office. So there's different ways to do it across Tallahassee in our district. And so I love art for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Montilla, this question will start with you. So homelessness continues to be a growing issue in our community. You both have recognized that. Compound that with increasing rents and low affordable housing stock. What immediate and long-term solutions do you think we should be deploying in our community to reduce homelessness?
That's for me. Is that correct? Yeah. So again, tapping into this, to resources. I'm saying that over and over because, truth be told, I didn't even know about COCA. I didn't know about any of these organizations before I was reached out to. So I think that there's definitely opportunity, and I can tell you that my close friends don't know about these organizations as well. So going back to this specific question, I think that there is resources, sure, that we can tap into. But in regards to homelessness, there's immediate need and there's long-term needs. And so there are other places, there's other cities that are doing it that's been really constructive and helping. How do you allocate that? Sure, you don't want to pack the jail cells per se, but there's ways that we can help to be able to help homelessness, whether it's circumstantial, whether it be mental. How are we, again, addressing them now and set up a structured plan to see this improve? Not, I'm elected. I don't want to have the continued issue 2-3 years, down the road that it's only gotten worse. Again, I believe that homelessness, unfortunately, will continue to be a problem, but we can always make an improvement. I really believe that. I think when it comes down to housing needs, I mean, that's, can we provide housing for them? And what does that look like? I think when it comes down to the developer aspect of size, how do we pass savings, whether we permitting to the buyer? How do we, create from the ground up, figuratively speaking, and somewhat of a pun in there, so that we can help provide and in which way we can and help address this issue that continues to plague us here locally.
Thank you. And Commissioner Welch, which immediate and long-term solutions do you believe should be deployed to begin to reduce homelessness in our community?
Well, I think we've done a really good job of that over the last 2 years at Leon County. As you guys are aware, we hired 2 host deputies, dedicated homeless outreach street team deputies. Homelessness is a difficult issue. You're talking about kind of 2 classifications. You're talking about chronically homeless people and temporarily homeless people. There's a big difference. Okay, so you talk about the 100 or so people in the community who are chronically homeless, many of them suffering from mental health issues, substance abuse issues. They don't want to receive services, and we can't compel them to receive services. They want to live outside, and so I think that that involves a long-term approach. Hiring host deputies is something that other communities don't have. they can go out, they can develop relationships with these folks, try to inform them of the services that are available to them, and ultimately the goal is to keep them out of our jail and out of our system. And that's worked really well. I think that we provide really robust homeless services in Leon County. The Kearney Center almost acts as a magnet for homeless folks from around the region that get sent here. We've seen recently reports that we've been actively trying to send those folks back to their family members, make connections with people, and based on the information I've gained, that's been successful. I think that ultimately we have to be compassionate, but we have to be realistic about how we deal with the homelessness population. Obviously, we have a responsibility to provide upward momentum for people. We need to grow a private sector economy. We have to provide more affordable housing at all levels. I think there are multiple ways you can do that. I think that we've had an issue at Blueprint trying to get money for dedicated land acquisition for homeless or for affordable housing units, but the city of Tallahassee already owns hundreds and hundreds of acres all over the county. The county owns hundreds of acres that we could identify to do those things, but we have to have development partners. So Dr. Montilla referred this. There are things we can do to lower the cost for builders on the permitting side, expedite permits, but we already do a really good job of facilitating federal money and state money. You look at the Orange Avenue housing complex that's been totally redeveloped. We are continuing every year to grow our capacity for rapid rehousing, for affordable housing in that I forget the name, but the community of folks that are income restricted. We're doing a good job of that, frankly, in Leon County. We're doing the best we can. There's always opportunities to improve, but I think if we just continue along the track we're going, we'll continue to get more folks off the streets and convince them to receive the services that we want to provide them. But ultimately, it comes down to what are we as a community willing to accept as a standard of living for people who, for whatever reason they choose, want to live on the street. So we have to provide better opportunities, better alternatives, and robust services to help those people.
Thank you. Commissioner Welch, we're still going to continue with you into the next question. So as a sector, we recognize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our operational practices and have begun implementing resources for the sector to implement. So what commitment to DEI will you make when elected to office?
I don't know how anything that a county commissioner can do would affect the diversity, equity, and inclusion of the nonprofit sector. You guys operate on your own. You operate as essentially LLCs. I mean, Leon County can sort of say, hey, you can practice what we preach or preach what we practice. Obviously, we're very sensitive to the diversity and within our staffing at the county. As a government, we sort of set the bar and the example. I think that's the extent to which we would be involved in the nonprofit sector's involvement or encouragement of DEI. That's become kind of a political hot button issue. I really don't think there's a lot of there. I think that you guys are cognizant of who you hire and how you hire people and how you treat people, just like we are at Leon County, just like we are at Leon County Schools. So I would assume that Dr. Montilla runs his practice in a way that he wants to reflect his values in his community. Leon County government, we operate in a way that reflects our values as a community. And I would assume the nonprofit sector will operate with values that reflect your services, your mission, and the people that you're trying to help. So I don't know really how to answer that question, Kathleen, outside of saying that's really your business, DEI or how you want to hire and how you want to promote, diversity within your organizations.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Montilla, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I echo some of what Commissioner Welch has mentioned. I think that's, again, not knowing how all you operate. There's going to be a learning curve in every the organizations that we're going to collaborate with and what have you. But I'll tell you what, the biggest thing that I emphasize on, even again going back to my kids and how we practice and how I hire is value people. I focus on people and the value of what the gifts they have to bring to the table. And that makes a big difference in a nonprofit or, in the private sector. And so I love the opportunity of just, again, focusing on people and what they have to offer, whether it be arts, whether it be whatever that looks like, and what we're looking at bringing to the forefront. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Montilla, we'll stay with you for this question. I think you both have identified a few things for this question already, but what is something about the nonprofit sector you would like to see improved?
Communication. I mean, I'll go back to saying that. I think, again, I didn't know some of these organizations before I got invited to be here today. So I think communication and better collaboration. I think when you collaborate and you have a representative from the community, from elected official who's working alongside you, to be able to be present and to be able to bridge that gap and really provide that working alongside, I think it can go further. And so I'm really big on that. So I think that's a great opportunity to educate, to be part of these relationships, and so that you can welcome and be a bridge for the community so they know the resources that are out there for them.
Thank you. Commissioner Welch?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of criticisms of you guys and how you operate. I think that UPHS is a great example of kind of coalition building or compartmentalizing sort of certain aspects of the nonprofit community. COCA sort of is an umbrella that covers all the art issues. We had a forum a few weeks ago that dealt with the women's issues. I think that a lot of the problem in nonprofit support, because again, we're talking about fundraising and having events and things like that, is you kind of get lost in the alphabet soup of acronyms. And so if there were a way to compartmentalize yourselves, or to build sort of umbrellas that you could put human services under versus art issues versus women's issues versus crime issues, things like that, that might be helpful for folks to understand your missions and better align themselves with ways to support you. I think sometimes it can seem like you're carpet bombing, and it might be better to shoot a little bit more clearly at your target, because again, and Dr. Montilla touched on this as well, it's hard for the general public. There's this sort of this is really neither here nor there, but there's this illusion that people like myself or Dr. Montilla or UPHS or COCA or anybody has, is that everybody cares about their issue or cares about them. The reality is most people don't. Most people are just living their lives. They're coming home. They're going to their kids' ball games. They're working. That's it. And so you got to be creative with how you cut through to reach people. And I think that if the sector could maybe sort of put yourself in, I know we don't like to do this, but put yourself in silos a little bit, it might be easier to understand the issue that you're pushing.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have one more question, and this subject has already been touched on, but here we go. Tallahassee, Leon County is home to 32304, a zip code that has been noted for having the highest poverty rate in the state of Florida. So what do you think local government's role is in addressing poverty in our community? We'll start with you, Commissioner Welch.
Yeah, now that we have a significant role and responsibility in that, and I think we do a good job. We work very closely with Second Harvest. We want to make sure that folks are fed. We want to make sure that folks are housed. So the sort of hierarchy of needs have to be met, and we do have a big responsibility in that. Now, obviously, again, our partners at the city have a bigger responsibility in that because they have $1 billion budget to our $377 million budget, and we work very closely together with them through the CHSP process. But I mean, it goes above and beyond that. Obviously, we work with the sort of on point surface level providers. We work with Leon County schools to make sure that kids are being served to the best of their ability. We try to fund those opportunities to the best of our ability. That Alice population is something that we should all really be unhappy with. Now, I think that people don't really realize that you can go a quarter of a mile from FSU's campus and see some of the most abject poverty you've ever seen in your life right here in Leon County. And that's something that should really hurt all of our hearts and that we should be really aware of. And I can tell you that at the local government level, from a policymakers level, we are aware of that. And I do everything that I can to communicate those issues to the folks in Northeast Tallahassee who may be disconnected from those issues. But at the end of the day, we do have a responsibility to do everything that we can to make sure that folks' basic needs are met. And that starts with, food, clothing, shelter, and public safety. And it's obviously something we're ashamed of as a community. We're all aware of it, and we're doing everything that we possibly can to improve those situations for that group of people.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Montilla.
Thank you. So yeah, it's interesting in terms of that zip code. I mean, even Northeast Tallahassee has its own pockets that they have that they have a community that can also use help in different ways and such. For myself, my background, I didn't know how we were gonna eat sometimes. At one point we didn't know where we were gonna live. And so I think government, yes, I think it's definitely a calling for the government to step in, but I also believe that there's an opportunity such as it was for myself and my three siblings, where not only do we come in and say, hey, this is what we have to provide for you, but this is what we're also going to do to help you get on your feet and move forward. My hope would be, as myself and my other three siblings did, is came from nothing, and now two of us are doctors and two of them are attorneys, is to provide more of a hope and more of a streamline to get these environments to shift that paradigm. So provide sports. What are some good resources that we can provide, as sports is a good outlet for a lot of these young kids. So again, just finding creative ways where these individuals can find value and plug in, because I help coach at Child's football, and that's what I tell the athletes. It's all about value and identity. When you have something bigger, something greater to lift, you respect your neighbor, your teammate better. And so I think that there's creative ways that we can step in a government level, right? And then help them. I like you use analogy as training wheels. Once they get going, get the pedaling well, how do we slowly come off so they can go and become the next doctor, go and become the next teacher, go and become something else. And I love to say this to everyone, when I talk to kids and what have you, I say, look, your circumstance does not define you. So how do we help them in that circumstance so they can create value, they can create strength and move forward from the situation that they're in?
Thank you, Dr. Montilla.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we're now moving into a general question. So we open up the floor to anyone that would like to ask a question to either one of our candidates. So you can go ahead and you can raise your hand, or you can use the raise hand function, or unmute and ask your question. And thank you, Justin, for the reminder to go ahead and utilize the chat as well.
Justin's on it.
You might be getting off easy, you two. This will be the
Right.
first time in our forums this cycle.
Maybe you answered all the questions, all the burning questions that this room has had. So we'll see if there's anyone that wants to, if they have anything that comes to mind that might be a curiosity or something more that they want to know.
My favorite color is blue, just in case.
Commissioner Welch, how about you?
Oh, my favorite color?
Yes.
Black.
Right. We got that one out of the way. Anyone else?
Wow. Seeing none, we just want to take a moment to thank you, Commissioner Welch, as well as you, Dr. Montilla, for being here today. We know you have a lot coming at you with the selection season. It is almost over, but we want to thank you both for having the grit and the tenacity to actually run. We know that is not easy. And thank you both for your service, not only in this role, but also to our communities in general. We encourage all of our members here and those watching after the fact to review our candidate questionnaire that is on our website. And thank you to everybody that participated. And we remind you to get out and vote if you have not already. Tuesday, November 5th is right around the corner. And again, thank you both very much.
Thank you very much. And also a reminder that early voting is available until this Sunday.
Right.
So lots of options to vote.
Thank you,
And
guys.
with that,
Thank you so
have
much.
a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.